Greetings from Wrangell, Alaska. Today we are aboard one of the Alaska Airlines former passenger 737-700s, now a special freighter. And what I want to recreate today on this last day of summer in Alaska is one of the many segments in the famous milk run. We're gonna head south to Ketchikan. One of the things about the milk run flights is that some of these areas of Alaska are only accessible by sea or air, so there's not a lot of roads. So that's why the milk run, be it cargo, passenger, or a combi version of both, is so vital. I've never been to the Alaska Panhandle, Alaska itself, for that matter. But I have read and heard that this kind of drizzly, rainy type of weather can be very common. Like I said, today's the last day of summer, but right now it's 13 degrees, rainy, overcast, low visibility. And that's why Alaska has become very famous for especially with Alaska Airlines, with having special training for precision type of approaches, since the weather can be so challenging, as well as the terrain also, which requires great airmanship skills, of course, and some of the more modern precision navigation systems that are around. That's something I really would love to learn more about. Again, I've only seen the milk run on YouTube videos like Mel Phillips as a passenger talking about it. So for now, it's going to do it on the simulator and see what it's like to take this short flight to Ketchikan. Our computer has us flying for 150 nautical miles. It will not be a straight line. I'm going to highlight some of the terrain on the radar to give you an appreciation of the challenges, again, in this part of Alaska. We've entered all the data necessary for this flight, so we're going to just go through our flows to get us out of here, out of Wrangell, as quickly as possible. So we'll start with the pre-flight checklist. Oxygen is tested at 100%. Navigation, transfer, and display switches are normal auto. Window heat. Window heat on. Pressurization mode selector auto. Flight instruments heading is set, altimeter is set. Right now the blocks are on, but we're going to set the parking brake so the blocks can be released here, and I'll go ahead and switch to the APU. And we can remove the ground blocks from the airplane. We will not require any pushback. And our engine start levers are cut off. So pre-flight checklist complete. Moving on to the before start checklist. So we have a flight deck door that's closed and locked. Let's pretend we have a third crew member here, an observer. Our fuel pumps are on. We're measuring in pounds today here in the US. Passenger signs on, windows are locked. We have our MCP set with V2 heading and altitude. Takeoff speeds V1, VR, V2 are also set. CDU pre-flight is completed. Rotor aileron trim is free and 0. Taxi and takeoff briefing completed, and the anti-collision light is on. One thing you will notice in Alaska's 737-700s, which were some of the earliest deliveries. They also have the eyebrows for celestial navigation. Okay, so we can see that doors are closed, our beacon's on. We have to pretend this tug here is really not there. Microsoft Flight Simulator defaults to always having a tug very close to your airplane. If anybody knows how to start Flight Sim without this tug so close to your airplane, just let me know. I haven't been able to figure it out. So we'll just pretend it's not there. Okay, we're going to move on to engine start. Flags off, and we'll be starting number 2. And 2 is at 23, ignition. Starting number 1. Okay, and 2 is right around 23, ignition. Flaps 5. And before taxi checklist, generators on, propede on, anti-ice off, isolation valve auto, engine start switches continuous. Recall. Okay, recall says we still have a door open, so maybe when we clear the ground equipment, the door, none of the doors closed automatically, but that's no problem. We just close it from here. Well, according to this, everything is closed, so maybe it's just an erroneous warning. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel it. Recall checked. Auto brake is set to RTO. Engine start levers are idle detent. Flight controls. Flight controls are checked and ground equipment is clear. Before taxi checklist complete. The runway is right next to us, so we're gonna go ahead and do before takeoff. We have flaps set to 5 and stabilizer. Trim is set to 5.34 units, and that's set. So before takeoff checklist complete. Get our wiper on, but once we take off, we're gonna use the heads-up guidance system. Got our taxi light on. After we clear the ground equipment, the brakes are off. So we'll taxi into the runway here. I'm going to use the weather on the first officer side and terrain on my side to give you an appreciation, as I mentioned earlier, of the terrain here in Alaska. Going to turn my TCAS on, although we probably won't see much traffic out here. And we'll do our runway entry procedure, landing lights. We want our position lights to be strobe and steady. Turn our auto throttle on, so we're ready to enter the runway. We're going to be departing at a runway 10. I don't see a space on either side of the threshold to turn around, so I'm just going to do our best here with this limited space. Should be okay. It's a small airplane. And we can go ahead and turn the wiper off and lower the screen. It's going to be our guidance out of here again. Typical weather, or common weather here, very volatile, can be very rainy, overcast, but something to rapid change. Just from what I've seen on the simulator, but also just from what I read and heard about Alaska. This is a 6,000 foot runway. I have a pretty much full 737 special freighter here. Flaps 5. We're all configured for takeoff. Just want to do one more quick check. We already went through our before takeoff checklist. Our maximum height today would be flight level 170. Okay. Takeoff. Stable. Thrust set.
Knots.
Check.
B1. Rotate. Positive rate of
tracks off. And I'm going to start making a U-turn to my right. I'm going to be clear of this terrain. We're climbing very fast. It also looks like the cloud deck was pretty low. We're already breaking through it. I'm going to go ahead and set VNAV, LNAV, command alpha. Flaps 1. Flaps up. Passing 10,000, landing lights off. After takeoff checklist, engine bleeds on. Packs auto. Landing gear up and up. Flaps up, no lights. After takeoff checklist complete. The SID we are using today is Lima Victor Delta 3. So we are approaching VOR Lima Victor Delta and we're making a left turn to head south. We can make the left turn earlier if we want. We already cleared the terrain, but we'll just follow the procedure. And we're going to be leveling off at 170 here pretty soon. as many of you fellow PMDG flyers should know, and with desire, is just that hopefully Asobo can figure out this weather radar situation. This is an ideal place to see the weather radar in action, but unfortunately, PMDG put that in temporary inoperative sticker, the yellow one there, until Asobo can figure out how to release the weather data in a format that's able to be translated into a three-dimensional weather radar. I don't know all the intricacies of that, but I know it's been a point of frustration for many of us I guess to have gone back a step when you consider FSX P3D had the weather radar functioning on the PMDG series, as well as the competition for some of the other airliners out there. We're going to be cruising for about 24 nautical miles. So while we do this cruise, we're going to prepare the landing data. I'm going for flaps 30, which will result in an approach speed of 130 knots plus 5 for wind correction. Runway 11 in Ketchikan is 142 feet. The elevation of the runway, that is. So we're going to go ahead and enter it here. And we're also going to enter the runway length for our HGS information, which is runway length is 7,500 feet. Our frequency will be 109.3. With a heading of 115. I'll set on the course also. The course automatically will switch to 115 once it captures the localizer, but I'll do it manually here also. I'm gonna set my altimeter to flight level 4,600 feet. We got good route continuity. Our go around altitude will be 5,000 feet. And right now we are 79 nautical miles from Ketchikan. There's some breaks in the clouds here. Hopefully we can get a nice visual into Ketchikan. I've flown into Ketchikan on the simulator before. One of the notable aspects of this airport, it has a sloped taxiway, which you will see when we exit the runway. And there's also a seaplane station right in the airport too. So again, this part of Alaska, you really have to get around by air and sea. Not much of a road option to connect these islands, these various islands in the Panhandle. The milk runs commence in Seattle and end in Anchorage, or vice versa, and have all these small airports in between, like Wrangell, Ketchikan, Sitka, Gustavus, Petersburg, Juneau. So you can spend pretty much an entire day on the milk run. I'm only doing it in these tiny segments. Again, being a dad for little girls and dogs and everything, I don't have much time to sim. So I'm just enjoying this hour or so before I have to get back to my normal dad duties. Going over our descent checklist, we already set our landing altitude. Recall here. It still thinks there's a door open, but obviously that's not the case. It could be just a bug in the program. Our auto brake is set to 2. We've entered our speeds for landing and done the approach briefing, which will be an ILS into runway 11. If I have a visual of the runway, I'm gonna go manual flight. But if the visibility is slow and rainy, I will not release the autopilot until I have some kind of a visual contact. And then we'll get the altimeter here for the approach. So the descent checklist is complete. And again, to show you there's no open doors, everything looks fine. So we have a fault thinking there's a door open. So we'll be descending in about 6 nautical miles. So we are descending.
Papa Alpha Kilo Tango, automated weather observation 1900 Zulu. Wind 126 at 15. Visibility 2 in heavy rain. Sky condition, ceiling 1,800 feet overcast.
So we have our altimeter set for Cat Chicken, and it looks like it's going to be rainy, low ceiling, 2 mile visibility. So we're probably going to be on instruments most of the way. The approach checklist is complete. And I will also start my landing checklist somewhat early, since I am not simulating any kind of first officer here. But for anybody interested in having a first officer helping you with the flows, I recommend FS2 Crew. For those of you who have more time to do every procedure from pre-flight all the way to secured, it's definitely a very good tool to have. But for now, it's just flying solo and trying to do flight deck resource management as best as possible. I'm also going to slow down a bit here and try to descend a little faster, because I know sometimes the airplane wants to stay airborne, wants to stay fast, so you don't want to overfly these waypoints. Even with the computer programmed, it's easy to be too high or too fast. Get the screen down. The temperature has been above freezing this whole time. Like I said, it's the last day of summer. It's just rainy. It's 9 degrees Celsius, so I haven't had to use any anti-ice. The next few months in Alaska is going to be a lot of fun with all the winter weather, so should be a lot of anti-ice operations, low visibility operations, very challenging landings requiring a lot of precision in this kind of conditions. So like I mentioned at the beginning, I really want to learn more about these advanced navigation procedures in Alaska. It's gonna have to look up some videos, I guess, and hope to actually at least be a passenger on some of these flights someday. It looks very interesting. For those of us who don't have that much time to be in the simulator, I think these short flights are great. And you can do every procedure from start to finish and just have a 30-minute flight, 40-minute flight. So I try to do one at least once a day just to stay current. Since the weather does tend to change very fast, we might actually get a nice break and see some better features, more visibility. We'll see. We're still 35 nautical miles away. Okay, passing 10,000. So we're gonna turn on our fixed landing lights. You can have them, Alaska has this option. They can pulse, so let me show you. So right now they're pulsing, alternating between left and right, between starboard and port. Or you can just fix them too. And if you fix them, they'll be fixed. I'm holding onto the air brake handle just so I don't forget that I have the air brake open. Slow down a bit here, passing 8,800, 31 nautical miles. And again, when you look at these weather patterns, it'd be so nice to have a weather radar operating. Hopefully soon. And for those of you who like to keep up with PMDG news, maybe any day now or any week now, we're going to be able to hang our flight tablet here. That will help us with not just navigation data, but also very accurate takeoff and landing performance calculations. And with the Navigraph integration, I'm essentially going to be able to have this Navigraph display, the one I'm pulling up now. I'll be able to put it on the flight tablet. That's the plan, to integrate Navigraph into the tablet. So the tablet will be here, and I'll be able to see where I am. I have a moving map like here. So lots of good stuff coming up. This is always a work in progress. I've been a PMDG customer since 2003, in my 20th year. I bought an NG back in 03, and I haven't looked back since. It's definitely my favorite aircraft to fly. I've also flown their 777, 747s in the FSX, well, in the P3D version. Very enjoyable. I'm looking forward to the 777 that's in the works, and it'll be followed by a 747. And for those of you who are fellow 737 fans, there'll eventually be a MAX. But again, flying the NG is a lot of fun. So what I like about the MAX is just the size of the displays. Every time I look at those cockpit pictures, it looks really, really cool. So 6300, which again, I want to make sure we're not too high. And let's see if we can get contact with the ILS. Yeah. Great. And I'm going to slow down a little bit here. Let's get this to 180. Start deploying flaps. Should be intercepting the glide slope here pretty soon. The diamond's coming down slowly but surely. And I was hoping for a break in the clouds. We'll see. We'll continue on descent here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put flaps 1. I'm gonna close the air brake. Almost there at the intercept point for the glide slope. Our VREF will be 135 with the wind correction. This 38 knot crosswind should turn into somewhat of a headwind here pretty soon as we get lower. Yeah, and you can feel some of those bumps from the crosswind. Some of the terrain there already. So again, this looks really, really interesting as far as challenging flying in these parts of Alaska. I really admire the pilots who do this on a daily basis. It definitely puts your airmanship skills to the test. I'm going to go ahead and set my landing speed. I mentioned that I want to get through the landing checklist earlier than usual because I don't have a co-pilot right now. So I'll get most of it set up. I'm going to arm my speed brake. The last thing I'm going to need to do is just get my flaps down to 30. So right now for the landing checklist, we have continuous engine starters, armed speed brake, gear down. And like I said, we'll get to flaps 30 here pretty soon. I'm going to lower the gear to slow down. So we are on the glide slope, looking good. The first officer has the vertical situation display, so there's really no terrain ahead of us. Right now we're flying over water. And then the terrain's going to be mostly on our left side as we approach the island where Ketchikan Airport is. And we're going to go ahead and set flaps to 5. Passing 3800. And again, hoping for a last minute break in the clouds. I really want to see something visual here. We'll see. Still a very strong crosswind, but again, it should slowly but surely become somewhat of a headwind. We'll see. Very gusty, as you can see. 167 at 37, 168 at 37. So yeah, you can also see it on the HGS. And today's the last, today's a 12-hour day in Alaska, and from here on to December 21, the days are gonna get short very fast. I'm gonna set the flaps to 15. And now 25, so we're just gonna wait for flaps 30. So I mentioned the wind might slowly but surely become a headwind. There's a few signs of that. Our heading's gonna be 118 the rest of the way. And right now that wind is from 1.5 down at 3-4 knots. Very gusty. We'll see how it is once I release the autopilot. I'm gonna go ahead and set flaps 30 now. So flaps 30. Landing check is complete. So you can see the airport has terrain on both sides. And you can see the VSI on this side. The 737 MAX with the larger screen has an incredible vertical situation display indicator. So that's one of the reasons I want to fly the MAX fairly soon. I know it'll take PMDG a while to get the 777, 747. There are some surprises in store, I understand. And eventually get to the MAX. But again, the NG, for me, is just a great airplane to fly. And the NG is going to be around for a while. So there's plenty of years to enjoy it. So we're about 6 miles, just under 6 nautical miles out from the airport. Flight Sim has very good rain effects on the windshield, but again, sort of a step backward. When you turn the wipers on, it doesn't actually remove the rain from the windshield, so the wipers have really no effect. But again, PMDG had the Rainmaker add-on on its P3D line, which is pretty neat. You could actually see the water getting wiped up, and you can also see bugs splatter against your windshield. So hopefully Asobo will catch up to that, and with future SDK allow more of those features to make the experience more realistic. Well, I see the runway lights. We're at 800 feet almost. We're going to continue the approach. Alright, now we had that headwind that I was talking about. Manual flight, I have control.
Too low, gear.
I could have sworn I lowered the gear. I don't know what happened there, but okay. Maybe my gear went up accidentally, I didn't even notice. Yeah, my gear's down. Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe my joystick button was a little sensitive and thought the gear and brought the gear back up. Not sure what happened. But we're gonna have a very smooth landing. Okay. Speed brake up. Don't think I'm gonna need any reverse here. There's a terminal. And like I mentioned, once I get off the runway, you're gonna see how the taxiway slopes downward. Really cool. Okay, I'm going to manual braking. And we're gonna just exit at the threshold, essentially. And I'm gonna start cleaning up. So flaps up, speed brake up. I'm gonna start my APU, and then we'll eventually go to ground power. We'll get the screen up and get some wipers on here. One big improvement over P3D and FSX is now we do have a friction model. So these slopes on the runways can either speed you up or slow you down. So here's a slope on the taxiway. You can see how it's going to just go lower here. Really cool. I really like the realism. And again, it is a very realistic friction model. So I can just put the throttle on idle, and I can just roll down this little slope. Really cool. Never been here in real life, so let me see where our parking is going to be. There is no ATC here. There's only a traffic channel. I mentioned the seaplane base. There it is. And there's also some general aviation. And we're going to be parking in the single cargo spot. I would assume there's only one cargo spot. If not, I'll just park next to the passenger 737 there. Yeah, I don't see a large cargo ramp, so yeah, I'm going to just park next to this guy. And there is another ramp for the seaplanes. So I figure this has to be aviator heaven. I mean, so much variety here, and with all the challenges involved. It looks really, really interesting and fun. And I should have turned everything off earlier, but let's see. Lights off here. I'm not blinding any marshallers. There's no marshallers, just me. Okay, I'm gonna set the brakes. Engines off. APU generator on. Seatbelts off, wipers off. And we'll get our ground crew to start unloading us here. Let's get some blocks. So the blocks are set, I can turn the parking brake off. We'll get some ground power. We'll get all our cargo unloading equipment set up. Request of stairs for myself and my crew. There's no passengers. And we'll just go through the shutdown and secure checklist real quick before we finish. Shutdown. Fuel pumps off. Put the ground power on here. APU off. Prop it off. Hydraulic set. Flaps up. Parking brake off. Start levers cut off. Weather radar. Weather radar's off. Tender TCAS off. Shutdown checklist complete. Secure checklist IRS off. Emergency exit lights off. Window heat off. Packs off. And we're gonna request some air from the outside. Right now it's 13 degrees Celsius outside, so the cabin will not overheat or will not get too cold regardless, but we'll get the AC unit on. And that's it. Welcome to Ketchikan. So again, I'm pretty new to this experience, but I really enjoyed it. Really great graphics here, just showing that runway slope, taxiway slope, and how the runway behind us is higher. Okay, we'll see you in the next flight. Thanks.